Now guys, you know I've reviewed a lot of BALTANY watches. I might as well say this is the Watch Me with BALTANY watches. It's getting that way. But you know why? I have seen enough of them now to feel, on the whole, I'm very pleased with the quality you get. And they don't just always send me the best examples. I've had a few with some very small issues here and there. But again, you've got to look at these as very affordable watches. And the specification is really good. So how does this 1926 Oyster style watch from BALTANY fit into the equation? Where's it going to fit into your life? £130 isn't a huge amount of money. And it is a quartz. And that for some people is a deal breaker. I'm probably going to say goodbye to you now for that. But stick with me, because what does this watch offer for not much more than £100? Let's take a closer look. So here it is, the BALTANY 1926 Oyster style case. And the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to pop up on the screen all the stats and specs for your information. So this is £130, made of all stainless steel, 316L, 46 grams, including that leather strap it's on. It's got a Seiko Quartz VD78 with the small seconds hand, which you can see there ticking away at the bottom. I've got sapphire crystal, which is a beautiful dome on there. It's got clear AR coating on the underside, which is good, so you don't notice it, but it does its job. Including that sapphire, it's 10.9 millimeters in height. The screw down crown, which is lovely, big and easy to use, 6.3 millimeters. It's got blued hands, 36.3 millimeters case size. The length of the watch is 43.3, and the lug width for your strap changes is 18 millimeters. The water resistance, even though it is slightly more of a dressy, vintagey style watch, 100 meters. Dial colours that are options are cream or silver, and the silver is the one we have here with a brushed finish. So that's your stats and specs. Let's get on with me discussing with you the likes and dislikes. What do I like? Well, first of all, build quality and the polishing. Build quality is defined for me by effectively the bits that are tactile in terms of the unscrewing. Is it going to be gritty? Does everything operate smoothly? Which here it does. Does everything screw back down okay? Which it does. And in terms of finishing, the polishing on here is very nice. But the polishing is very smooth, very neat. No ripples anywhere, no scruffy bits. Nice transitions with the edges and the contours here. Very smooth. And that's a good testament to the build quality. By looking up nice and close, I can't complain. There's no fluff under the dial. There's no poor printing with the text on the dial or all these Roman numerals. There's just everything just seems to be done to a very high standard, especially when you consider the £130 price. Next thing I like is this traditional vintage style. I mean, it's nearly 100 years old, this type of design. And for that, I think it's really nice that we're bringing back this kind of design element to the modern day. And I've seen a 1920s Oyster style Rolex, a genuine Rolex. A colleague at work actually has one as a family heirloom and has had it fully restored. I didn't borrow it to do a side-by-side, but I can assure you it's very similar to this. But the positives of this over the original sort of design is it's more robust, thicker lugs, a little bit more practical and versatile for day-to-day use. So you can do strap changes, whereas the original had fixed lugs that were very elegant and I would imagine quite easy to break, and it was smaller as well. So this works as a slightly contemporary version of a very old watch. The weight is insane, less than 50 grams. You're not going to notice it on your wrist. It's light as a feather. And if you like a light watch, you wouldn't be disappointed. The coin bezel, very pretty. I do like this design. Nice detail. And it just is something you don't see very often. It definitely adds a more vintage look to a watch. A little bit more ornate, and just shows a little bit more effort and precision has gone into the manufacture of an element of the watch. And it helps break the watch up. It can look quite plain. If it had a smooth bezel, this would look rather bland. But what just really lifts it and gives it that vintage look is that coin bezel. Affordability, I'd say £130 for a watch of this specification and quality is outstanding. The dial details are very nice. I like this brushed element to it. The small seconds hand is really nice. The ticks line up, even though it's something you could easily get wrong. You can still see it lines up with the markers. The blued hands. And they've been done really well to a high standard. And then that brushed dial just gives a little bit of depth of character to the dial as well. Really pretty. And some of you would have rage quit the video by now knowing it's a quartz movement, but being a Seiko, the VD78 is a good quality, really reliable movement, easy to change the battery every few years. This being a screw case back would be a bit tricky, but it's okay with a grippy ball or some blue tack or something. And every few years just change the battery out and that's it. And it's accurate, reliable, helps keep the weight down. Fantastic. Grab and go practicality is what we like with a quartz. And this AR domed crystal is absolutely gorgeous. Nice bit of distortion you get there, as you can see on the indices, add some character to the watch, just to play with the light as well, but not play with it so much like Sapphire normally does. It's not glary because it's got the AR coating. Really nice addition to have that. Otherwise it ends up just being almost impossible to read. And I do like a big crown on a small watch. I just think it's really cool. Adds, again, a bit of character, and this makes it practical and easy to quickly set the watch. A small watch doesn't always have to mean everything has to be small. Really tastefully done. But not all watches are perfect. This is an unbiased review. I try to keep it that way. I'm going to have a few criticisms here. Now, many people aren't going to like this size. They're going to say it's just too small. Part of my counter argument would be, well, you don't get the point of this watch then. It's meant to be small. It's a vintage style watch. Watches were smaller in the past, and that's a trend which is coming back. But here on my 7 and a bit inch diameter wrist, fits me still. I mean, obviously it's going to fit because I don't have a tiny wrist, but I don't think it looks out of place because of the styling of the watch. And that dial dominates the whole real estate space of the piece, so it just works. I think, yes, it is small, but I don't think it looks too small. This is a super polished watch. It's very authentic to the original type of watches like this, but as you see, it immediately smudges up. It's gross. I've only put that on my wrist once, and it just smudges and scratches immediately. It's a fingerprint magnet, this, and that means you just be forever fiddling about polishing it, which is okay. I mean, if that doesn't bother you, but for me, it might. It sits strangely on the wrist. I'm going to get this back on the wrist again and show you what I mean. Even though it's small, it's very straight and flat. And even though it's not got a long lug to lug, these lugs are quite high up in the watch's case. So it looks like it's floating off your wrist a bit there with the lugs. If the lugs were somehow lower down or had some tapering down, it would sit a bit better on the wrist. But like I said, it just sits a little bit weird. But that's just the nature of the design of the watch. Is it a dress watch? Or is it a casual watch? I think it's both, you know, but that's the question. Where would this fit in your day-to-day life? Water resistance is fine. Scratch resistance is good. It's not going to be delicate. You don't have to worry about it. So I think this could be a really good day-to-day wear watch. Smart casual, definitely. But you could also have this as a dressier watch. So having that sort of question on your mind might bug some people. They'll like something that has some real purpose. But for me, I'd flip that around and say it's got a lot of versatility. Is it too old-fashioned? Again, people won't be getting the point. You're buying a watch which is paying tribute to a watch nearly 100 years old. So yes, it is very old-fashioned, and that is an acquired taste. But for me, I don't know if that's too niche or not. I think it's a trend which is going up. People like watches that have something that's a little bit more of a timeless design, or something that could work for longer, not just a fad. And that's where I think this could or couldn't work. And lastly, the sterility. It's very sterile. Apart from it saying BALTANY there under the 12, there's nothing anywhere else. I know you could get that engraved as a big slab of bare metal. But it'd be nice if there was a B or something on the crown, or just some details on the case back. But again, that's something that can be added to you if you wanted to make this a watch that you could personalise. But I still think it's a bit too sterile. But what do you expect for a watch that's only £130? Now, before we go, I really must show you how awesome this looks on a strap, which costs half the amount of the watch itself. You've got to check it out on the Ostrich. It looks blooming awesome. I just think this colour really makes this watch pop even more. That silver dial with the blue hands really helps this really come out. I love Ostrich because it's so soft, really tough, and it's a bit of a luxury strap. Some people absolutely hate Ostrich, and I get that, but what have they ever done to you, man? The quality of these handmade Italian straps I sell are stunning. I've sold loads of them, and I think they're good value at £50 when you consider the quality that you're getting. And you could put this on an extremely expensive watch and it just complements it, and you can put it on a watch that's really good value and it just takes it up a notch. So yeah, that's what it looks like on an Ostrich. So in summary, another example of BALTANY with a vintage style watch, which is just something I think is a USP in the market. And that's something, if you're into a watch that has an older look, but with modern materials and build quality and reliability. Many of you are going to be coming in the comments and saying, I've got a massive wrist, this isn't going to look good on me. That's obviously fine, but not everyone has massive gorilla wrists. Lots of people have slender wrists, some people like smaller watches, and I think the trend is going towards smaller watches. It's something that's very wearable and light, and you don't really notice it throughout the day. And this kind of style, I don't think goes out of style, because it just looks like you've got a lovely, really good condition antique watch on your wrist. And there's something classy about that. And that's what I like. You're not trying to tribute something which is very current and on trend. Going back nearly 100 years and paying tribute to something like that, I think is really classy. And you don't have to spend a huge amount of money to get that. So I think that's another winner. If you like BALTANY watches as much as I do, obviously, I've done some playlists. I've got lots of examples of reviews of other pieces they do, and many other types of watches. So do check out one of my other playlists, and I hope you enjoy your continued YouTube adventure with Watch Me with Watches. It's been a pleasure sharing this one with you. See you soon. Bye for now.